Hey everyone, the Talking Dads podcast is brought to you by Little Scholars Early Learning Center. Whether your family needs infant care, a preschool program, or before and after school care, Little Scholars' highly rated Step Up to Quality programs provide quality early childhood education at an affordable price. Visit www.littlescholars.net to get in contact with an enrollment specialist and schedule a tour of any of their 5 Lake County campuses. Here's the deal. Talking Dads fans are getting a little bonus. Mention that you heard about them through our podcast, and when you tour, and you'll receive $25 off of your registration fee. Again, that's Little Scholars Early Learning Center, where children learn, play, and grow together.
In a world where moms continue to dominate parenting authority and a father's role is minimized in society, 2 dads take on the toughest parenting topics on a weekly basis, all while drinking bourbon. They are the Talking Dads.
What's up, everyone? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Talking Dads. As always, I am Ian.
I'm Steve.
And this is our final episode of year number 1.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Next week's anniversary time.
Man, where's the time gone?
Look
at us, man.
Look at us.
1 year in the books.
Yeah. But tonight, or for this episode, is actually really special. I'll let you talk in a minute here. But basically, it's CHD Awareness Week.
Yes.
And so we definitely wanted to hop on the mics and talk about something that, you know, I say it's important to me, but, you know, for you, it's extremely important. So, yeah, I don't know. Why don't you explain, I guess, what CHD is or your understanding of it?
All right, yeah, so I'm no doctor, but I've
But I can take a look.
I could take a look. Oh, man.
All right, now we can get serious.
No, I mean, we're good. I like, hey, comic relief is always good. So CHD is what it is congenital heart defect. So, sorry, my mom, I got babysitter stuff going on. So yeah, this is, like Ian said, it hits close to home for us, for my family and friends. And, you know, with my, son, Ben, who had CHD.
And we've talked about it a little bit before.
We've gotten into it. We talked about it. The most we ever talked about it really was on, Anthony's pod, not my dad.
Oh yeah.
pod.
Yeah.
So,
well, because there's a connection there, right?
So his wife was, one of Ben's nurses, and I think it's step down, Jody. So we know her really well, actually, from the hospital. Made a lot of good friends there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'll read, I found this the other day, and I thought this was interesting. And I didn't know this prior to, but it says 40,000 infants are born in the U.S. each year with CHD. So
that's a crazy number.
Yeah. It's the number one, CHD is the number 1 birth defect. And so it affects 1 in 100 babies born. So my son's 1 out of 100. So
what's insane about that is, I mean, look, I'm in childcare, right? That's established at this point. So, I mean, we give hundreds of tours every single year. Mm-hmm. I know tons of people with kids, and I didn't know anything about it until Ben.
And that's the thing. It's like with anything, though, it's like you never really think about it or notice it because
right.
It's not really in your realm. So it's for us, it was, you know, way far away from us. You know, we never even thought about it. Actually, my sister-in-law's cousin had a baby this past year, and she had CHD.
Really?
Yeah. Not the same thing as Ben, as a different one.
Yeah. Well, because, all right, so CHD is a pretty
broad. I mean, it's
broad.
There's a bunch. I can't even tell you how
condition.
many different ones there are. And there's really terrible ones. Mm-hmm. What Ben had was actually very, like, one of the most common.
Really?
Yeah. But there's a twist in his whole thing because there's other things involved.
Yeah.
But And I'll explain that whole thing when we get to that point of it. But there's a very serious ones where there's other things that could come along with it.
Right.
So,
well, I mean, just judging from your experience, and like you said, we'll get into it, but it seemed like every week you guys it was changing.
oh yeah, it was never consistent.
So
it was just always something.
It's just
there's
like
always
this
a wrench thrown in it.
broad like spectrum of a condition, I guess.
Yeah.
Where you just don't know what's going to happen. I mean,
We didn't. I mean,
all right, so let's start here. When you guys found out you were pregnant and everything, how quickly? I can't remember. Was it 20 weeks?
That's a 20-week appointment. So as you know, and anybody who's had a kid before, you go the 20-week appointment and you get the ultrasound.
Right.
And you know how that goes. It's the guy is pointing out everything. Okay, there's the lungs, there's their little hands and their feet, and everything looks healthy. So like the first time with Sam, it was boom, boom, boom. That's that.
Right.
Everything's good. Boom, you're out. With Ben, he didn't say a word. Like he just went like straight to one section of him, and he was just like focused on it. He was like zooming in, zooming out, hitting buttons, not saying anything. So it's like, okay,
that's got to be an awful job.
Oh, it's terrible.
I remember in our situation, all we were ever worried about was we didn't want to find out the sex because we were going to do gender reveal parties.
Yeah,
and so like you feel like they're like they don't know what to say, how to say. Do you know what I mean?
There's a lot of pressure on them,
right?
Because you're like, oh, yeah, we don't want to find out. So it's like, okay, there's the
stuff,
stuff over in that region that you don't want to know about. But yeah, I mean, with him, it was like, shit, I knew something was wrong.
That part has got to be like,
it's
got to make the job the worst.
So for him, he couldn't really tell exactly what the problem was, and he couldn't really be like, hey, he's got a heart problem.
Sure.
He kind of mentioned it, but not like in full detail. So it was kind of like we were left hanging. He's like, I can't really get a good look at it. He's like, he said we need a second opinion. So,
which you never want to hear.
No, because usually it's boom, boom, you're done. Here's your envelope. Go take it to the baker and have them make a cake for you, and you can have a gender reveal party.
Right.
But so her and I drove separately. So it was like, okay, well, I don't know what the hell we're supposed to do. I'm like, I went back to work for a little bit, and everybody's like, oh, how'd everything go? I'm like, oh, great. You know, like,
yeah, right. What are you gonna say?
Liz is still driving. She goes, we have an appointment at Ahuja. We have to get there now. I'm like, fine. I told everybody, I'm like, hey, I got to go. Something's going on. I have to leave. They're like, oh, no problem. So I left, went to a cardiologist there, did another ultrasound, and they were able to tell right away what it was. And they said he has a heart problem, obviously, and it's called TGA, transposition of the great arteries.
And so that falls under CHD?
Yeah, that's a congenital heart defect. And so transposition of the great arteries is, okay, so heart is... so on the right side is where the blood comes through from your body into the heart. Okay. So that's the right atrium into the right ventricle, which then goes through the pulmonary artery. No, it comes to the pulmonary into that side, goes into the aorta, goes to the lungs,
right?
Gets oxygenated, and goes through your body.
Through your body, yeah.
Okay, so that's how a heart works, and
then the left side.
So the right side is unoxygenated blood. So it's blue. That's blue blood.
Yep.
That's your not bad blood, but
right.
Deoxygenated blood. Right side is your oxygenated blood.
Okay.
So that's what feeds your body. It goes through your body, comes back through the pulmonary.
Yep.
Right, and then through the lungs back through. So
yeah. Okay, I got it.
With Ben's situation, his great arteries, which would be your pulmonary and aorta. So pulmonary artery and the aorta are switched. Okay. So what his heart was doing was pumping deoxygenated blood into the body.
Oh.
And oxygenated blood into the lungs. So you can't live like that.
So that's why he's okay in your utero, because he's getting everything from mom.
Yeah. But once you're born, then it's like, okay, you have to have the surgery pretty quick.
Okay.
So that is his problem. Okay, so then in between all that, so we find out that's what's wrong. Okay, when they're telling us that, still, what? I have no,
right.
They have a picture. They're showing us where everything goes, and in my head, I'm like, fuck. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what the hell any of this means, and I don't know.
Yeah.
And then we're both just like devastated. And we had gender reveal party, you remember?
Yep.
And then the next day, fast forward, Liz had to get lots of tests done. So with CHD comes the risk of other issues, like different abnormalities. You're higher risk for like different like neurological problems,
Okay.
Down syndrome. There's all kinds of different things that could happen.
Now, is that just because after birth they're getting less oxygen?
Yeah, and there's just different
Or I guess it
abnormalities
doesn't.
with the body. And
I know you're not
everything.
a doctor. I'm
No,
I'm not
but
like trying to.
what I kind of know.
Yeah.
Sorry. Anyway, Liz had to go to the one appointment we went to. Well, first she goes to a doctor, and I go, "Do you want me to come with you?" She's like, "No, it's not a big deal. They're checking stuff out." I'm like, "All right, fine." So she calls me. She's bawling her eyes out, and she's telling me like, "Okay, he's got a high risk of having a laundry list of problems," and it's like, "Oh my god!" So I should have been there, and I felt terrible about it.
Right.
Fast forward a little bit further, she had to go to the hospital and get something done called amniocentesis, and that's when they put a real long needle through her into the baby. I don't know if it's into the spine or what, but they have to get in there and pull fluid out, and that way they could test to see if he has any of those problems.
Is that like a genetic testing?
Yes,
Or? Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So for like chromosomes and things like that.
Right.
So then you have to wait. I don't know. I forget how long it took for the test results to come back, which was, I mean, you're prepared, like, to an extent.
Right.
And not to say like if there were other things that were wrong. I mean, obviously that's our baby. We're gonna deal
Sure.
with it the best way you can, and try to prepare yourself for it. So came back, everything's negative. So we're like, okay, that's great. They tell us TGA is one of the most common and easiest fixes. Like, oh, great. As far as heart surgery goes.
Right. So that's good news.
So that's good news.
Yeah.
So then you go to when he's born. Okay, so we find out Liz tells me I'm at work. She tells me that thinks it's going to be time to go. I'm like,
Right.
oh, fuck.
Right. Standard.
So it's like, okay, so now it's getting real. And it's like, okay, now we got to prepare ourselves for what's coming next. And it's, birth goes smoothly. Everything was perfect.
What was that birthing room like?
So it's, your usual.
Like mine, I think there was like 7 or 8 people in there.
Yeah. And counting like your family
Yeah.
family and everything.
Yeah.
There were tons of people in there. And like, it was like an operating room. It was,
Yeah. So they're like ready. Like
ready.
as soon as baby's born.
And the other thing with him is they know everything about him before he comes in.
Yeah.
For months, they're checking on him, checking on her,
Sure.
So they know exactly what his condition is. They know everything that's going on, and they're ready. So he's born. We get to hold him for a minute.
Which, I mean, time out for a second. How amazing is that?
It's incredible.
Like what the testing that they can do, and just to be able to be prepared. Could you imagine if like you couldn't test for that and just like baby came out?
Well, that's the thing. So there are times where these things slip through the cracks, and people just have their babies, and then they find out after birth. And I mean,
but how do you test for that?
I don't think
just baby's not breathing right, so they.
Yeah, I think it's like you find out, like you go home and feel, or the baby's born, they're like something's not. They're not breathing correctly. They're not changing color. But yeah, I mean that room was insane. And he came out and he was just like beautiful. The kid was perfect. And and I was like, oh man, he looks like me. He had the dark hair and everything. Because
he does look like you. Yeah.
Sam's got the blonde hair and everything. But yeah, I'm like, holy shit, he's just perfect. And we got to hold him for a minute. Then they would take him, go check him, run tests,
right,
bring him back. We get to hold him for a minute. And then it's like, boom, they're like, we got to take him. We're like, oh, well, so they take him away from us. So
which you knew that was going to happen.
We did. So we were prepared.
Still sucks.
It's terrible. Like, and Liz was just in bad shape from the birth. And like, so she needed a rest. So we go to sleep. It's like 4 or 5 in the morning at this point. Then they move us up to our room. They have been in the NICU.
Okay.
So it was neonatal care, whatever the heck that is, intensive care. So he's there for a little bit. I go check on him while Liz is resting, and they're like, we're gonna move him to PICU. So they call this area. So PICU's pediatric.
Okay.
So those are older kids,
right?
But with what he had was, they call it cardiac row. Mm-hmm. So there's a whole line of rooms, and that's all heart patients.
It's a terrible thing to call it.
It is. But that's.
So, someone should really consider rebranding that.
It sounds terrifying.
It really does.
Yeah, it's like death row.
Yeah,
cardiac row. But so
this is at Rainbows.
This is at Rainbows. Yeah. So we're there. We knew that we were having him there, and so that was all prepped. We know our doctors. We know everything. they're ready for him. So that was a Friday. He's born, blah, blah, blah. Fast forward. And now he's in the PICU. I go down there and check on him. I don't know. He looks
right.
He's got machines all over him.
Sure.
So there's just like the room's just, you've seen pictures.
Yeah.
And you've been there. You know what it looked like in there. So I'm like, all right, cool. They didn't really tell me much at that point. They're like, when can your wife come down? I'm like, I'll see, when she's ready. So go get her, put her in a wheelchair, and bring her down. And when we get back, there's about 20 plus people around in his room, just like, okay. So I just wheel her in. We just sit down. I'm like, I don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
So his surgeon comes in and his cardiologist comes in, and they're just like, okay. They sit us down and tell us he has pulmonary hypertension on top of TGA. Pulmonary hypertension, I don't know the exact definition or all the ins and outs of pulmonary hypertension, but I know the two of them together is very deadly.
Yeah.
It's rare. From what they told us, is really rare. And actually, I've looked up a lot of things since then. I didn't look at anything. I did not look at I didn't Google anything when I was there because I refused to. And I knew that because I don't want to freak myself out. But from what they told us, that it's not good. And it's like his percentage of survival at that point is like 10%. So it goes from being like the easiest heart procedure to
right.
You might not
so,
make it.
Secret time. I remember when this was happening, we were getting updates and we looked stuff up.
Yeah.
And like, again, I can't remember specifics because I like blocked all that bad energy out.
Terrible, yeah.
But I remember just being like, holy shit, like this is not good.
Yeah, it's bad. It's real bad.
Like, because I remember Chelsea's sister I think she was still in nursing school maybe at the time.
That sounds right, yeah.
And
yeah.
So, we're asking questions and everything else, and it's just like the worst thing you can do.
Yeah, it's
so
terrible.
It's good that you stayed away because I remember looking at that stuff and like number one, it was hard to find information.
So that's the thing with that one, because like I said, I try to do like research on it.
Yeah.
And there's not like enough, there's zero information. Like, when you go on to Google and you type in something and there's like millions of results.
Yeah.
There's nothing. And it doesn't, it's just, and all the articles read the same thing.
Yeah.
And it tells you about like a study and different cases of, success rate and, whatever. But yeah, so there's nothing, it's very rare. And if I remember correctly, they hadn't had that there. So they pretty much told us like, we have to figure out what to do, so, which is insane.
Again, not to like, I feel like it's okay now, but like, what is that even like when supposedly the smartest people, like that you're putting your baby's life in their hands, they tell you we don't know what to do. We have to figure this out. Like, I can't imagine.
They're trying to like
that.
sugar. They're brutally honest, and at the same time, just like reassuring you that they're going to do everything.
Which they have to.
You have to.
They
can't lie to you.
Right.
But
yeah, that's insane. Man. I can't.
It's just. It was terrible. So,
Ooh.
Excuse me. Oh man. Pizza booyah for dinner.
Onions?
Yeah, there was onions in there. And ketchup?
Onions and ketchup? Now the tuxedos are kind of fucked up. All right, sorry.
There's a gentleman behind you. So, all
right, so they tell you.
So another thing that he had too, I forgot to mention this, is he had VSD, which is like, what the heck is it? It's let's see here. So VSD.
So while you're looking that up, so pulmonary hypertension, that is not necessarily a congenital heart defect.
No, so babies can get it.
It's coupled with, right?
So
because I've heard of that
you
before.
You can get it.
Yeah,
babies can get it. And even then, it's still dangerous.
Sure.
But the combination of the two, because what your body is trying to do, is trying to survive off of machines at this point. And there's different things they could do to help the hypertension, but he wasn't reacting to it. Like his body, he just wasn't doing it. So things got really complicated with him. VSD, what is ventral septal? I can't remember the whole thing, but anyway, ventricle septal defect. So anyway, what that is there's a hole in the septum. So what the septum is like what divides the right side and the left side of the heart.
Right.
So like I said before, you have the left or the right atrium, right ventricle, and the same thing on the other side, left atrium, and left ventricle. So anyway, there's a hole in there, so in the septum. So that's what divides it. So the blood can mix at that point. So sometimes kids have that, and sometimes it could heal on its own. His wasn't going to, so they had to do, that was another operation they had to do on top of it. So what they do for that, which is crazy, is they use, Gore-Tex, like a jacket.
Yeah.
That's the material they use to patch up that hole. And it just eventually, like the soft tissue and everything will just take it and it'll be there forever. So that's just, he has like a piece of Gore-Tex in his septum. That's
Guy's waterproof.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's pretty crazy.
That's incredible.
They showed us too. They're like, yeah, this is what he has. This is what we used to, close that hole up. So with that whole combination, deadly, it's terrible. So we're, on pins and needles the whole time.
Yeah.
And then he's not strong enough to get surgery to get his heart fixed. So he's just living off of.
Yeah, because he's not eating at this point, right? Like, no, he's eating, but like
they're feeding
not
him through the machines and everything. There's nothing, like, he's not getting his usual nutrition. I mean, they are giving him what he needs.
Right.
But yeah, we can't hold him. We can't do anything. He's just on a bed. So anyway, there's like two things you could do in this situation. Is you could either do the emergency ASO, or the next thing is, he wasn't strong enough to do that. So ASO is arterial switch operation, which is his procedure that he needs to get his valve
switch the valve.
Yeah,
swap the valves. Yeah.
So he starts getting really bad. We actually left that night. Both of us, they're like, you need to get some air. Go be with your other son.
I remember this night.
So we're like, okay, cool. So we do it. And then we're both hanging out at home. And I'm like, I think I'm going to go back there later. Liz's like, we need to get rest, relax. Phone rings. So she goes, it's the PICU. I'm like, well, motherfucker.
Yeah.
So I start getting dressed because I know something's wrong. And she's crying when she gets off the phone. I'm like, I'm going. I'm heading there now. So I'm just like, the whole drive, I'm just like, he's not going to make it.
Right.
Like the last thing we could do is ECMO and ECMO. Sorry.
No, yeah.
It's like I can't remember all the terms. So
sure.
ECMO is extra corporal. I can't remember the hell it's called. Anyway, it's basically an artificial lung. So what they're going to have to do is put a tube into his, your carotid artery. They have to put that in there. So there's a procedure they have to do. They have to do a surgery to do this. And what this will do is it will pump his blood from his body out into a machine, and it goes into like an artificial lung, and this oxygenates his blood for him. Because at this point, like days leading up, we were just watching the monitors,
right,
waiting for his oxygen to stay.
Right. Yeah, I remember that.
And all we did,
I remember kept asking, "What's oxygen?"
Yeah. And all we did was just sit there and stare at the monitors, and it would go up a little bit, and it would just go back down. It was just never enough for him to survive.
And how old was he at this point?
A few days. I mean, I can't remember exactly when he went on. It's like such a blur because it was such a cluster at that point. So
for some reason, I feel like it was later than they were supposed to originally do the surgery,
you're supposed
right?
to get the surgery like a few days after.
Yeah,
and that's what we thought. So originally, I forgot to mention, when you get when you have the switch, it's supposed to be a couple of days later, get the surgery, and then you're recovering for a couple of weeks, and you're out.
Yeah,
and you're home, and it's like no big deal.
Right.
But they had to postpone everything. So ECMO is terrifying because there's a lot of things that could go wrong. So when I get there, like I said, same thing again. There's just tons of doctors, nurses, surgeons, and they're all just standing in the room waiting for me. I get there and they have a clipboard with all the stuff, and I have to sign off on everything. Basically, like telling me what can go wrong.
Yeah.
Potentially he'll die.
Right.
And I'm sitting there and I have to sign this shit. And I'm like, okay, so I sign it, and they're like, okay, we're gonna do the surgery. And
dude, people talk about like signing your life away when you buy a house and like all the shit that you have to sign, like.
Yeah, and then I'm just signing my son's life away. It's like
I can't even imagine, dude.
Oh, it's terrible, and so bad. And then so Liz gets there, and my mom and her mom come with her, and they're like, okay, we're gonna do it. So we have to go sit and wait, and it's like super late at night, like 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, and we have to wait, and it's like it's terrifying. So we're just hanging out, and then all of a sudden, like one of the surgeons like kicks the door open. He comes out, and he's just like ecstatic. He's so excited. He's like, he's doing great. Everything went perfect. And it's like, oh my God, thank you. So he took to that perfectly. Was able to, a few days later, I forget how long he was on for, but then eventually he was able to get the surgery done.
Yeah.
So you get the switch.
So he had
done.
to do that surgery while.
So what they do is then I can't remember if they took the ECMO machine with him. I think they kept him on. They took that in with him for surgery. And man, if you could watch that scene of them wheeling him down the hall. So you remember the machines? The ECMO machine. So picture a room. You know how big the room was. But for anybody else, it's a hospital room. And the entire room is filled with machines. There's barely enough room to walk. You have to like scooch past everything. And there's a couch where you could sit down, and everything else is filled with every machine. So watching them wheel him out with all those machines was incredible. There's like 20 people walking to get him out of there. So anyway, they have the ASO. So they do the switch. The switch is when they cut the aorta and the pulmonary artery. Then they have to also. So the coronary arteries are on the wrong side. So what they have to do is cut those out. Those are on the pulmonary artery. They have to move them to the aorta. So they have to cut those little things off. And those, I mean, a baby's heart is like the size of their tiny little fist. So imagine these surgeons in there working on this heart.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the coronary arteries are tiny. So they have to cut around that, put it on the other side, and then they do the switch and they sew everything back together, and that's the switch. So goes perfect. Everything's good. So they take him off ECMO. Everything's perfect. Everything's good. So I think like 25 days after he's born, we finally get to hold him for the first time, and which was amazing. It was great. And I'll never forget. It was like a Friday night. I held him for the first time, and we're like, okay, he looks phenomenal. I went out to dinner with my dad and Joanne, and we had dinner, and Liz went home. I stayed overnight, and then the next morning, I'm like, my whole family was going to Patterson's. So I'm like, let's go to Patterson's. We'll have a great day with Sam and the rest of the family. Call us halfway through the day. He's not doing good. There was some type of fluid on him. He looked He looked perfect the night before. The next day, he blew up like a balloon. He had so much fluid on him, they could not get it off of him. There was the chylothorax. So it was like the thoracic duct was leaking, and that was causing him to get a lot of fluid on him, and then they couldn't get it off, and there's nothing they could do. His blood pressure just dropped. They gave him a medication to try to dry him out, to try to get some of the fluid off him. Everything dried out minus that, and his kidneys failed. And so next, he's might not make it because everything's going terrible right now. It's like, oh, fuck, here we go again. So back there and back to watching the monitors again. And I remember sitting there next to the bed, just talking to him for hours. Yeah. And the doctor's sitting outside, and she's watching the monitors, and she goes, keep talking to him. She goes, whenever you're talking to him, she's like, his numbers seem to spike, and he does better. So I just sat there and talked to him the whole night. And, eventually they did, oh man, I'm trying to think of all the stuff. So much. He started to get a little bit better. Things were, it still wasn't good, but he had to get dialysis, which was like, sorry, I have like all this shit, these names of things, but I can't remember. Anyway, he'd have dialysis. I think it was paracentesis, and then so it's some type of dialysis that you have to hook up like a tube in his stomach, and like it hooks up, then it's going to help drain everything out. He took well to that, and but he started getting fluid in his lungs. At one point, one of the tubes slipped, and Liz actually noticed. And the whole place went crazy. I wasn't there for this. I was actually at work, and they started freaking out. They took her out of the room because what happened was if that tube slips out, then the air gets in, and like his lung collapsed, and
holy shit!
So he had fluid on his lungs. So they had to put another tube in, one into his lung to drain to get the fluid out of his lungs, and so it was one thing after another with him. So it was it was a freaking nightmare. So several times we almost lost him. Yeah. And
what was the part? Was it the decision to do ECMO? I remember there was like this big thing where they had to call like.
Oh, so to do the surgery, to do everything, I forgot to mention that. So it's rare. So these guys had to call
like the combination
around
of everything was super rare, right?
And he wasn't taking to any of the procedures to help the hypertension. So these guys were calling around, like the doctors and surgeons were calling around to other doctors and surgeons around the country.
Yeah.
Cleveland, like Michigan State. I think one surgeon said like Duke, like all these different places, California, and they were able to. These guys were learning on the fly. They're like doing research. They're going home at night, reading books, and doing all the research they can to figure out what to do with Ben.
Yeah.
And God bless all of them. I mean, they saved his life. I mean, thank God we have a hospital like we do, because I mean, he wouldn't be here right now.
Right.
And then all of them are amazing people, and they like I said, they saved his life. And so after everything's said and done, I think it was 2 months total we were there.
Yeah.
And he did great. It sucked though, because we had to do like we had to take him home. We had to give him shots every night.
I forgot about that.
And just
what was that? Do you remember?
Tube. Man, it was some type of I can't remember exactly what it was, but that sucked, man. Give a infant a shot. We had to do it ourselves. I've never given anything a shot in my life. And I had to grab his little chubby leg and grab a piece of fat, and it was awful. So they had a feeding tube.
At least he was home.
He was home.
Yeah.
And it was still terrifying.
Oh, sure.
So I'm like, I remember the night.
Everything is terrifying with a 2-month-old.
Oh, yeah.
Let alone a 2-month-old that you just got to bring home, and now you have to give shots to.
Now it's in our hands. We had everything at our disposal at the hospital.
Right.
I'll still never forget the night before we left. They're like, okay, we're going to show you how to feed him, because we have to feed him through a feeding tube. You have a tube in his nose. We would have to grab his formula or breast milk and put it in a tube. So you'd have to grab like a stethoscope, and you put it on his stomach, and you'd have to grab a syringe, and you'd have to pump air into it. And if you could hear the air hit his stomach, then you're like, okay, it's good. I could give him his food. So we had to do that. That's how we fed him. And then we had to give him shots. And but the night before they sent us home, they're like, hey, you have the whole night you have to spend with us, and we have to show you exactly what to do. Yeah. And then you go home. We're like, oh,
what?
The worst freaking night ever. It was awful.
Oh my God. I mean, especially after what you just went through, like,
yeah, I mean, it's just
how like the ups and downs, I feel like, right? Like he was doing good for a while, and then like something like unknown happened, and then he was doing great, and then, nothing. That'd be terrifying to go home.
Oh, we wanted to take the monitors home with us. I'm like, we just have this.
Yeah.
We just take one home.
Yeah.
So
you're already billing me. Like,
seriously, I don't even give a shit. When you guys come and just hang out.
Right.
But yeah, man, you're talking about an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah.
I mean, you go from being like on cloud 9 to it's the end of the world. Like, it's just, you're going to lose them. And it's just like the worst feeling in the world. I can't. So anyway, all that, leaving was bittersweet, because like I said, you fall in love with all these people.
Sure.
And they're just always
Dude, I remember
around.
going in there and just like seeing how much attention, I guess.
And he was like famous there.
Yeah.
Everybody, I mean, they all just loved Ben. He was just a little pain in the ass.
Like you can tell when people are like genuinely like invested and when they're not.
Yeah, exactly.
And like I remember going in there and, just to see you really, and like.
Yeah. And we just come support us. And it was, God, the support we had from our family and friends was amazing. And it's crazy. Like you think of, so you go to you have these things like this. The people that were in the PICU were just phenomenal, and we got really close with all of them. Yeah. So when we go to step down, you're not with them anymore. But they would come over every day to come see him when they're like on their own shift. Like they would leave the PICU to come see us, and they were amazing. But yeah, so anyway, with CHD though, man, like we were talking before, how crazy and how common it is.
Yeah.
With no, I mean, no one in my family, no one in her family.
Yeah, so it's not genetic. It's not like
there's freak things that could happen. There's people like if you have like someone has diabetes or they work like around a lot of chemicals, or there's different things that
they've linked that kind of stuff to it.
They can, yeah, but genetics
but like
play
you
a
guys
role
don't.
into it. No, so it's just a freak thing, and it can happen to anybody. And
well, you said what, 1 in 100 babies?
Yeah, and it's the number one birth defect And like,
it's amazing to me that like I said, like with all of the children and
the people
pregnant
that we know
families that have been around and never even heard of it before. I mean,
honestly, I didn't know anything
all
about
types of terrible stuff that like we've dealt with like through the daycare and like just family and stuff like
just
that.
the different
and,
things that kids could have.
Yeah, but I've never even.
I mean, for us, like,
And to be fair, like as close as we are, maybe like I had heard of it before, but it never like registered.
you
But
didn't really think about it because it didn't really like didn't really affect you.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like same with us. Like, I mean, with anything, like with any disease or anything that you hear about, and you're like, whatever. It doesn't have anything to do with me. But it's like, when it hits close to home and it actually hits you, it's like, shit. Like things are real, and I mean, everything could go wrong, and it could happen to anybody.
Yeah.
And I mean, when we found out what he had, it was like things could be a lot worse. And that's what we kept saying. Things could be a lot worse. There's a lot worse things that happen to kids every single day.
Sure.
To parents every day. And there's just, and even when they told us what he had and they explained to us, like, this is a very common thing.
Right.
And the procedure is not that difficult. So we're like, all right, good. I mean, we're like giddy. Like when we had him, like, we're like, okay, he's going to get his heart surgery and we're going to get the hell out of here in a few weeks. And then anything could go wrong at any moment. And it did. Everything that could go wrong went wrong. But they told us from day one, like, I remember when he was born, they're like, we had to they put like earmuffs on him. And they put like things over his eyes because everything irritated him. He was always pissed off. They said he's just feisty. They're like, he is just really feisty and he's just a fighter. We're like,
he definitely is.
And they said, that's what he needs to be though, because if he's going to survive, this is the way he needs to be. Because if he's not, then he's not going to make it. So, I mean, that plays in today. The kid's a hard-headed little.
Yeah, he's the happiest kid ever though.
Happiest kid. He's just always smiling. He's just such a sweet kid, but. Man, is he feisty.
Badass Benny B, man.
Yep. So, yeah, I mean, and they also said with CHD, it's causes more death in children than cancer. And, I mean, it's just, like I said, it's not something you really hear about. Right. And so I guess that's what this whole month's about. I mean, like, this whole month of February is Heart Month. Yeah. And then CHD was the 7th through the 14th.
Right.
And so, yeah, it's just to raise awareness for what could happen and for anybody. I mean, it could happen to you and it couldn't. And I would never, I've never known anybody. Oh, I can't say that. I do know somebody else that had their child with CHD, but man, you just never know. And so you just got to count your blessings and just be like,
100%.
A lot of things could go wrong, but my son, he's healthy. He's happy. I mean, he had pulmonary stenosis. That's kind of going away. So that's just like constricting of like the pulmonary artery, and but that's kind of going. He'll grow out of that. That's pretty much gone. He does have a leakage in his aorta, but that's not like anything of concern.
Okay.
They said that if there's ever a problem with it, he'll never have to have anything done. Maybe, and if there is anything, it'll probably be like in his 50s. So he has no restrictions on it, physical activity, sports, nothing like that. What else does he have? He has like a few things, like, so you know how he has to have thickener in his water.
Yeah.
So
Why is that?
It doesn't happen with every kid, but
is that just because he wasn't able to develop?
So yeah, so with kids with CHD, that's another thing is developmentally they are a little bit slower to develop. That could be
they're sitting in their freaking
in their heart
bed
and their body just isn't like doing what it's supposed to be doing right off the rip. So
not doing the movement that they normally do, and
I mean, they're already slow because like from day one, a baby is already developing, and they're already learning, and they're already starting to figure everything out.
100%.
So he was in a coma pretty much for the first week. So I mean, they also kids like that have like failure to thrive. Yeah, not him. That kid, he's like a freaking beast. He's like 97 percentile in height. The kid he's defying everything.
I mean, like today, so he turned 2 in September, right? So he's like 2.5 almost.
Yeah.
And I know at the daycare, like
he seems to be doing fine.
Couldn't.
He's just a little bit slow in his talking, but he's 2.
Right.
There.
I mean, in the toddler room over there, you couldn't pick out the kid that
had
multiple surgeries. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, if you look at him, he looks like a pin. I mean, the pin cushion. His body's like the scars on him. It's just unbelievable.
Badass.
But I think it will just be like I said, I want to raise him to be proud of every mark on his body. He's got obviously the zipper, his whole chest, and then he's got like just holes.
Yeah.
So when they did the ECMO, what they had to do is they put the tube into his neck, and what they had to do is to keep it attached to him. They had like tape there, and then they had to sew the tube to his ear, so you can see it like on his neck.
Really?
Here. So there's a scar there.
I never knew that.
Yeah, he had a surgery for his chylothorax. They had to tie off his thoracic duct. That was another surgery he had to have. He had like, all in all, when he was there, he had like 5 surgeries. When it was only supposed to be one quick heart surgery done.
Normal, like.
And that's it.
Yeah, or as normal as a surgery can be. Yeah. Right.
But man, he went through the freaking ringer. And as a parent going through something like that, I mean, the worst. Man, I'm telling you, and I think I've said it before, like, I used to go and, away from Liz, I would go and bawl. I would leave. I would just go and cry and scream and punch the wall, and just because it seemed like every other day I was told bad news.
Right.
They'd be like, he's fine, and then the next day, like, he might not make it. So I mean, you just go through this emotional roller coaster. But like, together as a team, as parents, as a father, like, we got through it, and I think it really strengthened our relationship. Sure. And it really changed my outlook on life in general. So I mean, I just appreciate everything, and man, that I don't know. It's
amazing. I mean, it's hard for me to even comment. Like, I know from my perspective, you know, I always try and be as positive as possible. Mm-hmm. I think I like consciously, like, about any situation, you know, and I found it like really, really hard. Like, because again, I remember us like looking stuff up, which was terrible to do. But
I think everybody outside of Liz and I looked stuff up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, I just remember, like, I remember Chelsea and I would be sitting at home on the couch, and like our kids are asleep, and not even like watching TV or anything like that. Like, we had like the laptop out, and we were just like, oh, we got an update, and like we're looking up what that means. Yeah. You know what I mean? And like we're reading, and we're like, oh, fuck. Like,
yeah. And it's and
then it's like
people stuff like messages like, hey, this is what's going on. It's like, okay, well, and when you hear it, it's like Chinese, like I said. You know,
right.
Like, what the hell anybody's talking about? And still to this day, I mean, I do have a good understanding of majority of the things that went on.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't know. Liz actually did someone's hair. One of the surgeons that was in there for a couple of his surgeries, and he was like, this, like, what went on with him was no joke. Like, kind of like reiterated like how bad everything was, and it's like she came home and told me, I'm like, damn, it was really that serious.
Well, like I said, I remember looking stuff up and like having the conversation with Chelsea, and we're like, well, we can't say what we read.
Yeah.
And like, you guys are our best friends, like forever, you know, it's been forever. Mm-hmm. We talk about everything, and like, not to be like, woe is me, because obviously it wasn't that bad for us. But like, just to not be able to like talk about what we were reading and like how we were feeling, because we just had to be positive, you know what I mean? Yeah. So like,
we gotta be supportive.
And again, not to be like, woe is me, because
no, I'm not taking it that way.
You know, but yeah, I mean, I just remember like from our perspective, like it just felt like it was gonna be fine, but that's just like the positive like outlook in me.
Yeah.
But like, man,
yeah,
like the roller coaster was just insane, and just like seeing you guys like still putting so much time into Sam. Yeah, and then like,
you gotta try to.
Like, I don't think you slept for 2 months, bro. No, like, I just remember
I was going to work. I
remember the one time we went to go watch the Cavs game. Like, we went down there. I think it was me and Perry.
Yeah,
and we went down there, and I remember like, I don't know, we got like wings or something like that.
Went to the bar and everything. Yeah,
and like me and Perry are just eating, and I remember looking over, and like, I don't know if you had a burger or wings or whatever it was, but like, you hadn't touched your food. You were like staring at the TV, but you could tell you weren't like watching.
It was not there.
And I was just like, fuck, like, what am I supposed to say? Like, how am I supposed to help?
But that was great though, to have that kind of stuff, to try to have some sense of normality, just like to have people coming, like my brothers and my family and you guys, and but to be able to just go out and grab food with somebody and try to keep my mind off of things, but at the same time thinking about it 100% of the time. And just never sleeping, and man,
Well,
it was a freaking nightmare. But
luckily,
look at
dude's a
where we
little
are today.
badass.
Yeah, man, the kid is
amazing.
He's just a solid kid, and he's
I love
he's
seeing that
beautiful.
smile when he jumps off the couch and like,
The laugh, and
you
just
know.
him. He's just the happiest kid in the world.
Yeah.
He's sweet, and I don't know. I just can't get enough of that kid. And yeah, I don't know.
It's cool that you can like open up and talk about it, and that like with this platform, because again, you know, no one really knows about CHD, and that's
no, not at all. And
you should know. I mean,
I feel like people like around me, like you guys have heard the stories, and
right.
I feel like, I mean, a lot of what I just told you probably, I mean, I've told you a lot, but I think getting more in depth with exactly what is what.
Well, and
really
even just right now, like hearing it from start to finish.
Yeah.
And like you said, you probably forgot some stuff or
I
whatever.
guarantee you
but
there's
like
some other things. And
like, I don't know that I've actually sat down with you and like gone through from start to finish. Like we've done pieces and we've talked, oh yeah, I remember when this happened or whatever, but like it's insane.
Yeah. And you're right, though. I mean, like, I've never really sat down and talked to anybody from start to finish about it. Like, I think we've, like you said, in bits and pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never had the time to sit there and talk to somebody about it.
I got 2 kids.
Yeah. I'm just living the dad life, but it is cool to talk about, and I'm proud of it.
Yeah. Should be.
I definitely hate that it happened. But looking back on it and everything, the success story,
right.
I'm happy and thankful that everything's fine. But man, am I proud of that kid, and just proud of everybody around us that went through it with us. And I mean,
I love too that you guys do celebrate it. Like, he's got like he's got that picture in his room.
The quote.
Yeah.
And it says, "Fate whispers to the warrior, you cannot withstand the storm."
Yeah.
And the warrior whispers back, "I am the storm."
Yeah.
That's my favorite.
Like, it's amazing.
It's the perfect thing.
I mean, that's literally Ben.
Yeah. And
like, I got goosebumps.
It's like he defied all the odds and just,
I mean, literally
crushed it, man.
Yeah.
Kid just he was such a badass all the way through.
Yeah.
And the fact that he was able to get through what he did
right.
is just amazing. Man, and just to think about it, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And we saw that video I posted the other day. Just
Yeah.
kind of showed.
That was a good little montage.
Shows just the picture of him like in his bed with all the shit hooked up to him on the ECMO, all the machines, all the medicine.
Yeah.
And then you look at him now and it's like, man.
Yeah.
You do something like that, one of us has to go through that now, we're dead.
Right.
I mean,
yeah, 100%.
Babies are resilient.
There's no way.
Babies are resilient. They'll make it, and they will, their bodies figure it out. But I mean, like, if you do something like that at this age, you're not going to make it.
Right.
So it's so crazy. But man, it's no joke, man. I mean, all this stuff, it's something to definitely be aware of. I mean, we do the heart walk every year. You guys go
that's
every year
fun.
with us.
Yeah.
That's cool. I mean, every year. It's only been 2 years, but
right. But
still, I mean, it's a big thing.
By fun, I mean, it's cool to see how many people come together.
And you know what the worst thing in the world ever to do there is when the beginning of that is when they have all the parents come up that lost their babies to CHD, and they all hold a butterfly, and then they let the butterfly go. And then as you're on the walk, they have all the pictures of the babies that didn't make it.
Yeah.
And it says, like, it's just, they're pictures and like 2 days old, like an hour old. I mean, like, it's just like the worst thing.
Well, some of them are older too, right?
Some are older.
There's different conditions.
There's other complications and things that can go wrong. And there's like, and I have to look it up, but people living with CHD, I mean, like, there's adults now that had these, and they're living today. And the good news is, like, that's good news for us.
Yeah.
There's people that have had the same problem, and they're alive today. Now, I don't know about the count. I mean, I don't know. Still, there's no number. There's no like information for pulmonary hypertension and TGA. I can't find it. And everything I find is the same. And it just shows the quick definition, like high mortality rate.
Yeah.
The survival rate. I mean, it's just bad. It's just everything bad, bad, very rare. And so I would love to meet another kid or a person that had that condition, like the same thing. I've trust me, I've looked it up everywhere.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think that one day, and the goal is, and we'll reach out to more of them, is his doctors or surgeons, and see if we could get somebody to come on here.
That'd be amazing.
Explain it to them a little bit better, because I tried my best. I had a lot of information flying at me, and Liz and I both did. She does great with it. She's got it all up there. I like I said, there's a lot of times where I just kind of like just went away.
Yeah.
Like where they started off with, this is what's going on. And it's like, boom, you're instantly like, I don't want to do anything else. I'm too pissed off, too depressed, too upset. And it's just, it was a lot to take and a lot to take in. So,
but it's amazing like how it all worked out, you know?
Oh yeah.
And what I think is really cool is, I mean, it's, you know, on this podcast, we mess around so much and we have tons of fun and I love that.
That's what it's all about, man.
That's what we do. But it's cool that you have that perspective. Mm-hmm. Again, wouldn't wish it on anybody
ever. Never.
Wouldn't want that to happen to you again.
Never want to see anybody go through it.
The fact that you guys made it through that, I think it definitely gives you a perspective that I don't have, you know?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And like I said, I can appreciate a lot more.
Yeah.
And you know, I mean, you saw us go through it and I think everybody went through it with us, you know? I think when my mom and dad both said it's terrible to have a kid, like your kids go through it, but to watch your kids go through like them, they're you know, where they were watching me go through it. Like they said, that was the absolute hardest thing, just to watch us and try to stay positive, but at the same time go home. They would do the same thing. You know, they'd cry and like, just be terrified. Cause every day we call, I'll be like, hey, I just want to let you know, he might not make it. Can you come down here and come see him? You know, like, or just, it was nice. It was good, and just come support us. Too. And they were always there. I mean, my parents would drop everything, show up at like 2:00 in the morning, you know, or come to my house at like 2:00 in the morning to come watch Sam. Well, Liz and I had to rush over there, or you know, I'm there and Liz has to rush out. So the support was amazing, and it was just the best thing ever. And, speaking of kids and family, so Liz sent this to me yesterday. So I said my sister-in-law's cousin's daughter had CHD as well. She sent Liz's message yesterday. So they're let's see. She goes, I have to tell you what Mila did today. My niece Mila. Yeah. She goes, I was changing Rory, and her scar showed a little bit, and Mila was around playing with her, and you know she brought up Ben, and she spoke so lovingly about about reassuring Sherry, the mom, you know, that the scar will be little like Ben's because she'll get bigger and everything will be fine. She's like, it's so cute. She's like, you know, Mila, amazing. She's 9. Yeah. But she's so proud of like Ben's scar and everything. And like the fact that she was like reassuring an adult, like, it's okay, everything's going to be fine. She's going to be like Ben. And
well, that's Mila too, though. I mean,
yeah, you want to talk about a sweet kid. But I mean,
oh man.
But shoot, I mean, there was a girl that worked at your
I was going to say, do her nickname, Kiki, like, we found out after everything happened. I wish we would have known.
Yeah, no, she told me, she goes, I got because we sent stuff to and it's heart anniversary, that's what we call it when he had his heart surgery. And we sent like gifts and cookies to the daycare with Ben. Yeah. And she goes, I just heard the story. She goes, and I started bawling. She goes, I had heart surgery. She goes, I had TGA. And like, I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing?
Never knew anybody ever. And she's got the zipper scar and everything. It's like,
she's like 23, 24. I don't know. Like,
and it's great. I mean, so you figure the different technology and how different everything is from 20 plus years ago. Yeah. And then John's girlfriend, Sarah, had.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right. Yeah.
She had multiple surgeries. Yeah. So, I mean, like, we know quite a few people that had CHD. I mean, like, that's pretty crazy. Yeah. So when you think about it like that.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
So when you think about, like, how common it is, you could place, 4 people that we know in Lake County. Right. That had CHD. I mean, there's probably a shit ton more that we just don't even know about. Exactly. So, I mean, that's how real it is and how common it is. And you just don't know. So just always, I mean, be aware of it. And like I said, there's, they can find it, and there's a cure. I mean, there's not a cure for CHD. It just happens. Right. But
there's success stories. You know what I mean?
Like, there's success stories, and there's all kinds of different conditions.
Right.
So.
Well, and I love that, you know, even with our little reach that we have, you know, just to get that story out, I think that's super cool of you. And, you know, just to be able to raise awareness as much, you know, every little bit helps, I feel like. And, you know, again, we always talk about like reaching that guy that finds out he's going to be a dad for the first time. And if like something happens, you know, hey, there's someone you can reach out to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, and another story of that is someone that we knew from elementary school and junior high who reached out to me randomly on Facebook.
That's right. Yeah, I remember you told me that.
Asked me, he said, hey, I followed your son's story on Facebook. And he's like, I just want to know, how the hell did you get through it? He's like, my son has a problem that we're in the NICU and, you know, and I go, hey man, here's my phone number. Call me.
Yeah.
And I talked to him for like an hour and a half and just told him like,
Yeah.
you know, everything will be fine. You know, I just try to help him out, give him like just a helping hand any way I could. And I remember him reaching out to me later after everything was said and done, just like being like, dude, thank you so much. He's like, you helped me get through that whole thing. He's like, I didn't know what the hell to do with myself.
Yeah.
And that's
again, you have that perspective that not many dads have.
Yeah. And it's great. I mean, I would love to talk to anybody about that. I mean, I think if they had people come in and talk to us, like parents that had a situation, similar, not like what he had, but like exactly, something like with their kid being sick, which is great. The hospital has people like that.
Yeah.
And, but man, if I had someone like that I could reach out to and just be like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? Right. You know, I mean, we were doing it by ourselves. I mean, not to say by ourselves, but like, but at the same time we were,
but no one knew, but nobody, like all of us, like all we could do was, hey man, I'm here for you. What, you know, but it was like helpless.
Yeah. And there's not, and at the same time, I'm not going to be like, hey, come here so I could cry on your shoulder or something. You know what I mean? Like, because, you know, we wouldn't do that, but we know we had the support, but it's like finding someone that could relate to what you're going through.
Right.
And you just want to crawl in a hole and die. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to, at the same time, you don't want to talk to anybody.
Right.
And people would come in at the worst times too. You'd find out like something bad was going on and they would come in and talk to you about,
right.
And which is, I mean, God bless them. I mean, they're coming in and they're taking the time to volunteer to come talk to people and try to help them. And it's like, get the hell out of here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
right.
But like, we were just bawling our eyes out a second ago.
Right.
But I mean, yeah, but like I said, if anybody would ever need to reach out, I would. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff I would love to do.
Yeah,
I would love to help anybody
absolutely.
out. And if I had more time, it's tough with a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. I'd love to volunteer at the hospital and do things like that. I think somewhere down the road I will do.
Yeah,
that.
You should.
And I mean, I'm all about that.
Yeah, 100%. You definitely should. I mean, I'd go with you. You know, whatever. Like it was.
I met a lot of good.
It was surreal just to like walk in that building, and again, from a secondhand like situation. You know what I mean? It's like not my kid in there, even though your kids are basically like my kids, but it's not the same.
But then you walk through the PICU and there's, I don't even know how many rooms, and they're all the glass rooms, and like you walk past and you see all those kids in there, and you want to talk about the most heartbreaking thing. Oh my God, man. It's just, that's
that was heartbreaking.
When you see the kids that are by themselves.
Yeah.
You do have the parents that don't leave.
Yeah.
But you have these kids that are just by themselves, and God, like I said, God bless these nurses.
They were amazing. I mean,
they're like,
for the little
like
interaction
parents,
that I had.
Dude, so was it last year on Christmas, Ben had RSV, so we spent Christmas there. So that place is amazing. I went to bed, I slept next to him, and I remember waking up around 5, and when I woke up, there was Christmas lights in there. There was presents all over his room. Like Santa came, like just brought all kinds of stuff for him.
It's amazing.
So I had to leave and then go have Christmas with Sam.
Yeah.
And then have him open presents, so everything was like, you know, normal at home. And then we brought him back to the hospital, and we had Christmas with Ben. So, but that hospital was great. I mean, they had everything.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So those people, man, saints. And I can't imagine having to do what they do on a daily basis.
Right.
Can you imagine, like, Ben was a success story. Mm-hmm. Imagine what they go through with the people that don't make it. I mean, I can't even imagine. So anyway, that is Ben's little story there.
Yeah. But, I mean, it's such an incredible story. And again, just to be able to put it out there and talk about it is.
I love doing it, man. Yeah. It kills me, but at the same time, it's a happy ending, so it's easier.
Right. Oh, 100%. Yeah. Like,
and I can't imagine what, the alternative was.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know. I think about it a lot.
Sure.
I think about I still think about what can go wrong with him.
Yeah.
I
I understand that.
I mean, I know they say everything's fine, but then you think about like shit, like what if? I mean, it could happen with any kid, but it's just like with him, I just worry so much more.
Right.
So, but he's fine.
He's a little badass though.
He's good.
So.
Kid's good. He's solid.
Yeah, awesome, dude. Like that's it's amazing. And again, we'll throw some links up for more,
some information
and how you can support the cause and everything, and just getting I think more than anything, it's getting information out there, right?
Yeah.
Like having awareness.
Yeah, having awareness is great because I mean, like, and God forbid, but what if you have to go through it?
Right.
Then you could. I'm not saying be prepared. No one's ever prepared, but
no,
you have an idea of being able to look into something. I mean, there's like I said, there's hundreds of thousands of things that could go wrong. Yeah. But just to be aware of what could possibly go wrong. I mean, it's good to get it out there. So
absolutely.
CHD Awareness Week is why it's over tomorrow. But just want to put it out there.
Very cool, man. It's awesome. I'm like talking to you like a guest right now.
I'm your guest tonight.
I think it's amazing. And I think that we should just end this pod like that. Like I don't know that we need to get into anything else. I think we should keep the focus on CHD. And again, we've done, you put some posts out there this week and this will come out and hopefully we get some people to listen to it and really understand that it's more common than we know.
Yeah.
And
just because the awareness weekend's tomorrow,
right,
doesn't mean you can't be aware all year 100%. Round.
And when's the walk? September, right?
September.
We go, yeah.
So, which is awesome. They have another event coming up actually.
Oh, really?
In Menor at the Roll House.
Oh, I did see that. Yeah.
So we have to do that.
Yeah, we'll do that for sure.
So
100%.
Yeah,
very cool.
Well, the usual.
Yeah.
Follow us.
Oh yeah.
On all our social media.
Yeah, all that.
All the podcast stuff.
All the podcasts.
The usual.
All right, very cool. Well, definitely a different episode.
For sure.
I think it was good to get out there. So, like
Thank
Steve
you,
said.
Hey, thanks for having me on, and thanks for letting me tell my story.
No, it's great.
It's a lot of fun. I want to do it again.
Pleasure's all mine.
Pleasure's all on this side of the table.
Yeah. No, very cool. All right, well, with that, that's the podcast. 1 year.
Oh, yeah.
Next week.
Can't believe it. We're a year old. Happy birthday.
Yeah. We should have a party.
Oh, we will. Maybe. Hey, and happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
Oh, yeah. Happy Valentine's Day also.
Buy your wife something nice.
Don't forget. If you forgot, this is your warning. We'll put this out early so that way.
Go buy something. I didn't buy anything.
Yeah, same.
I'll buy dinner tomorrow.
Yeah. All right. Like Steve said, make sure you follow us on all the socials and download us and subscribe and give it a share too, especially this episode. Do us a favor and hit that share button. Just make sure this gets out to as many people as we can. Like this is an important one. So thanks for listening.
Thank
for
you.
watching.
Thank you.
Whatever the hell you're doing.
Whatever you're doing. Thank you.
And in the meantime, raise good humans.
Cheers to that.
Cheers, man.
Hey, cheers. Hey, guys, if you love what you just heard or watched, and we know you did, do us a solid and hit that thumbs up. Share with your friends and throw us a comment, literally about anything. Your support legit keeps us going. Oh, and don't forget to give us that 5-star rating. We really appreciate you.